Welcome, Cincinnati Rotarians. We are honored to have the Green Township VFW Post 10380 as our color guard today. Gentlemen, present the colors.
Detail. Hope. Right face. Post colors. Retreat. Preset. Arts.
And Ken Coggeshall and Janet Metzlar lead us in the national anthem.
Detail. Right face. Forward step.
Hux Miller, will you lead us in our invocation and four-way test?
Thank you, President Doug. Lord, be with us today as we meet to honor Richard Stewart, a veteran of World War II, who fought alongside our fathers and our uncles to protect our country from the forces of Nazism and fascism that had attacked us. This may be our last opportunity to honor a veteran of that war. As time, like an ever-rolling stream, bears all its sons away, they fly forgotten as a dream dies at the opening day. But let us resolve to keep our country strong and united so that we may be a force for good in the world. And let us honor all veterans, those who fought and those who spent their youth prepared to fight, so that we might be safe. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast and our eternal home. Under the shadow of thy throne, thy saints have dwelt secure. Sufficient is thine arm alone, and our defense is sure. Amen. And now let us repeat the things we as Rotarians say, that we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
You may be seated to enjoy a special presentation by the Rotary Chorus.
is from Abraham Lincoln, part of the Gettysburg Address, November 19, 1863. This is how he decided to end it. One, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
no matter how justified, shall be directly proportioned to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. George Washington.
Thank you, Rotary Chorus. Kelly Collison, will you welcome all of our visiting Rotarian and guests?
Thank you, President Doug. Good afternoon, Club 17. We have quite a few guests today. It's very exciting. So if you would please stand when I call your name and your affiliation and who brought you as a guest today. Give us a little wave and let us welcome you in today. Meredith Amon, living embodied, guest of Michael Schatzman. Jack Lechner from the Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science, a guest of Ken Coggenshaw. Carrie Kusnar with Magnified Giving, she's my guest. And we have Judge Mike Canese, Butler County Municipal Court, retired, and he is a guest of Jim Neidhard. We have Brad Hogden, and he is a guest of Larry Cunningham. Brian Holland from Genesis at Work Foundation, and he is a guest of Rick Finley. Dan Kiefer from E&J Trailer, he is a guest of Aaron Foki. Will Hand, a guest of Nancy Hand. These two next guests are guests of Allison Kaufman. They're dear friends of Magnified Giving, and they are both former Marine captains. Please welcome Drew Myers and Ty Hogan. We have Laverne Mitchell, who is the senior ward at St. Simon Church and also Lincoln Heights Council, and she is guest of Ariel Miller. We have Lieutenant Colonel Tom Cook, U.S. Army retired, a guest of Jim Neidhard. And these two guests are guests of Eric Petway. They're from Journey Advisory Group, Jill Henson and Tim Kester. Thank you all for being here and enjoy Club 17.
Thank you, Kelly. Our meeting sponsor today is the Military Officers Association of America, represented today by Steve Dreyfus. Steve?
Thanks, President Doug. The Military Officers Association of America, otherwise known as MOA, is the nation's largest and most influential association of military officers. With more than 350,000 members from the 8 uniformed services, MOA is a powerful force speaking for a strong national defense and representing the interest of military officers at every stage of their careers. MOA is the leading voice on compensation and benefit matters for all members of the military community and fosters fraternal relations among retired, active, and former officers of the uniformed services. The Greater Cincinnati chapter of MOA has 274 members and supports and serves its local military families and veterans, ROTC units, and junior ROTC programs. Additionally, the Military Officers Association of America Cincinnati chapter has supported several other local organizations, including Joseph House for Veterans, Toys for Tots, USO, Honor Flight, Easter Seals, and the American Red Cross. It's an honor for MOA to sponsor today's meeting and World War II veteran Richard Stewart. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Tim Marcagi, let's meet our newest Rotarian. Come on up.
Thanks, President Doug. My name's Tim Marcagi. I've been a member of Rotary since 1990, believe it or not. And in all those years, I never sponsored another member, and I'm ashamed to admit that, but I never have, and partly because I never felt the right connection, the right person for the job. And I wanted to get somebody who was going to come in and give back and really embody the service above self. And Ryan fit all those when I met him. He has the same sort of philosophy on life, giving back as much as he can, and he's really good at it. And I'm just thrilled to have him part of the Rotary Club. Ryan's a employee benefit corporate services consultant with NFP. He's been in the business for about 15 years, and he is very adept at helping companies with their insurance needs, particularly employee benefits, large self-funded plans, but can also help with property and casualty and retirement plans and any kind of corporate services. Great guy and a great family man. He's married with 2 kids, a son in kindergarten and a daughter in the 5th grade. Yeah. And having grown up with 3 older brothers, he's finally learning how to deal with little girls. So he's asked some advice on that a few times. But anyway, really hope you welcome Ryan and look forward to the things that he can bring and help with Rotary. He's going to be a great member and on some committees, and I think everyone's going to enjoy it. So thank you, Doug.
All right, Linda Muth, bring us up to speed on Rotary Due Days.
Woohoo! So Rotary Due Days 2023 is history. Woohoo! So if you were a member of the Rotary Due Days committee, please stand. If you worked as an ambassador for a project, please stand. If you volunteered for a project, please stand. So together, we completed in just 3 days 34 projects, managed 550 plus volunteers, and committed more than 3,000 volunteer hours to the tri-state. Give yourself a hand. The bottom line is Rotary Due Days would not happen without all of you. And our point is in creating this program, it was designed to show the community what we do and what our mantra of service above self is all about. And I feel like we have accomplished that. It was part of the 2018 club member survey, and you came together and said we need to make a project that puts us out in front of the community. And after 2 years of development and COVID and everything else, we are now at the exciting period of time where we can come together and create meaningful change for these nonprofits that we work for. So again, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all next year when we talk about Rotary Due Days next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for your leadership. Bill Stilley, let's recognize our Rotary veterans.
It's quite a privilege to stand here and recognize my fellow veterans who are members of Club 17. So, as here's the clicker. As I announce your name, please stand up so that we can recognize you. Serving in the Army Reserves from 1971 to 1977, Steve Brash. Army Staff Sergeant from 1968 to 1974, Rich Deneen. In the Marines, Corporal E4 from 65 to 68, Jeff Dornetti. Navy Captain from 1974 to 2014, Steve Dreyfall. Army Captain from 1971 to 1975, Rich Finley. Navy Petty Officer from 1969 to 1973, Fred Fisher. Army First Lieutenant from 1954 to 1956, John Frank. Army and Air Force Colonel from 1990 and currently still serving, Jay Johannigman. Army Sergeant from 1965 to 1971, past President Al Conscious. Army Reserves from 1971 to 1976, Dave Lucky. In the Army from 1965 to 1967, Ken Magnus. Marine Sergeant from 1973 to 1993 to 1998, John McCann. I hope you can see that picture well enough from the back of the room. This is the most fitting picture I think I have ever seen. It's so fitting of Navy Petty Officer between 1965 and 1969, Bob McElroy. You've seen those pictures that say, taken just before disaster hit. U.S. Navy from 1966 to 1971, Bob Miller. Navy Lieutenant from 1990 to 1994, Gary Mitchell. U.S. Army Spec 5 in the American Forces Network from 1970 to 1972, past President Greg Mordechek. U.S. Army Sergeant from 1962 to 1968, Tom Noonan. Air Force First Lieutenant from 1958 to 1961, Tom Perrott. Marine Infantry Officer from 1983 to 1987, Mark Robertson. I don't know how this guy got in there. Navy Seaman Journalist from 68 to 71, Bill Stilley. U.S. Navy E-4 Construction Mechanic, that would be a CB from 2014 to 2019, Chris Warner. Army Private First Class from 1970 to 1980, Jeff Wheeler. I think these folks deserve a standing ovation. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Bill. It's 12:50 and our program should be starting, so I'm going to rip through these announcements really, really quickly. So starting with your deadlines tomorrow, your deadline for registering for next week's meeting. featuring Jan and Wim Portman talking about Let's Crown the Queen City is tomorrow at 5 o'clock. You also have a deadline of registering for Rotary After Hours, which is coming up on November 17th. Do that as quickly as possible. Your deadline for bringing your Condon School gifts back is next week's meeting. If you, for some reason, cannot attend next week's meeting and you took one of the gift cards, please make arrangements with Christy to be able to drop off those gifts for our annual Christmas party with Condon School on December 5th. And then finally, everyone's favorite deadline, your Rotary dues invoice arrived in your inbox recently, and the deadline for paying your dues for the next 6 months is November 30th. Don Keller, will you stand, please? And will you all help me wish Don a happy birthday by saying happy birthday, Don, on 3, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Don. Awesome. Our guest of honor, will you choose a ticket? Choose one ticket. Just grab one of those tickets out there. Please be very careful. Awesome. I'll grab that one. Okay. Let you pick the one. I'll drop that one. Okay. The winner of our Split the Pot is $50 today, and the winning ticket number is 65227. 65227. And the rolling pot, so Jane, let's see if you can choose the Queen of Hearts, is for $1,052. Awesome. And one more birthday who slipped in. Fred Fisher is actually today. So on 3, happy birthday, Fred. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Fred. All right, Jane, you got the Queen of Hearts?
No, I got the 7 o'clock.
Ah, so sorry. All right, Steve Dreyfel, let's kick off our program.
We really have a distinct honor here today to have Mr. Stewart here. And before we introduce Mr. Stewart, I want to say thank you to all those who submitted questions to ask Mr. Stewart. And now, actually, the person who's going to introduce him is Larry Davis. Larry is a longtime friend of mine and a dear and special friend of Mr. Stewart. So, Larry?
This is truly an honor. Again, my name is Larry Davis, and it's good seeing everyone. And I have the great pleasure of introducing the man of the hour, Mr. Stewart, Richard Stewart. I met Mr. Stewart 4 years ago in 2019. I was taking care of my 88-year-old uncle's yard who had suffered a debilitating illness. One day while mowing the lawn, I see this gentleman walking toward a parked car, and he was wearing a World War II cap. I stopped the mower. I went over and introduced myself. He said, "My name is Richard Stewart." I said, "Sir, I see you're wearing a World War II cap." I said, "Were you actually in the military during World War II?" He says, "Yes, I was." Wow, I said. I then told him, I said, do you know that this is the 75th anniversary week of D-Day? He says, "Yes, I do. I know. I was there." I said, "You were?" I was just speechless, and I thanked him for his service, and I said, "Do you mind me asking you how old you are?" He says, "I'm 98. And as it turned out, he was on the way into work, driving himself. 5 days a week, he would go in at 10 a.m., and I could set my watch. Oh, must be 10 a.m. Going to work. And he told me that he was in the mortuary business. He was a funeral director. We exchanged numbers and became very good friends. But I can remember one occasion where I'm out there mowing the lawn, and it's 10 o'clock, and no Mr. Stewart. Okay, and I finished up around 11:30, still no Mr. Stewart. Now I'm worried. So I called him and no answer, no answer. Oh, 6:30 in the evening I called him and he answered the phone. I said, Mr. Stewart, I tried to call, you didn't go to work today? I tried to call you, I didn't get an answer. He said, oh, I was in a seminar. I said, Mr. Stewart. What were you doing in a seminar? He says, well, I got to keep up my continuing education credit so I don't lose my license. He's an amazing man. We became good friends, and actually more than that. He's been my mentor and somewhat of a father figure. If you read the bio, you see that as his family grew, he needed to make a little more money, so he decided to take another job, full-time job, as a nurse's assistant at Drake Hospital. As time went on, he decided to move on, get a little more education in the nursing field, and he became an LPN, a licensed practical nurse. That was a double wow for me. The first wow came in seeing how devoted he was in taking care of his family, so much so to take on a second full-time job, and he was there for 23 years. The second wow came when I found out that he worked with my mom. She was also an LPN at Drake. She went on to glory 20 years ago. I mean, he's just a fantastic, fantastic man. Mr. Stewart is a faithful member of this church, Laverne Mitchell's church also. He was once a scoutmaster for the Boy Scouts. He served on the Kidney Foundation board. And yes, and I got a picture to show you if you don't believe it, he voted this past Tuesday. I thank his daughter Olga, who took him to the polls, and on his insistence, take me to the polls, and she took the photograph. To say that Mr. Stewart is a family man, that he's patriotic, a man of honor, a man of God would be an understatement. I introduce to you Mr. Richard Stewart.
Situated?
Yeah, okay.
Just a minute, I'll be right back. Now, do we need to do a sound check or anything? We're good to go. All right, great, thanks. Well, Mr. Stewart, it's truly an honor and stuff to have you here today. And you heard some of his story from Larry a little bit. And I want to thank every Rotarian who submitted questions. We had a lot of questions. And Mr. Stewart and I met a couple days ago, and we got through 3 or 4 of them in an hour and a half. So he has a fascinating life, fascinating stories to tell. And we're going to try to do our best to stay on time and answer some of the questions that you guys had. Well, Mr. Stewart, why don't you go ahead and tell a little bit about how you got into the Army, what happened. You joined on December 31st and stuff, so go ahead.
Well, number one, December 7, 1941. How many of you remember that? That's when the Jap bombed Pearl Harbor. And that had the Congress listened to the military leaders at that particular time, that ship would not be a graveyard there. So everyone, Roosevelt, President Franklin Roosevelt, 21 and older, had to register for the draft. That caught me in that respect. So I had made up my mind. I asked the good Lord when I was in high school, what am I going to do to make a living? The last semester of my senior year, and he said, undertaker. That's what they called them back that day and time. In other words, funeral directors. So when I graduated, I left my home in Marion, Indiana, and went to Gary to get some experience in the funeral profession. I stayed up there for about 2 years, worked at the Howard Funeral Home in Gary, Indiana. Then I came back home. My dad said, if you're going to go to college, you got to make an effort, period. It's all on you. I said, all right. So in 42, I started to embalm Indiana College of Mortuary Science at Indianapolis. And in regards to that, I said to my, had to study, and the dean, all of us who were registered to go to the service, the Army. So I got my greetings in 1st of December to report for my physical, the 31st day of December. And I was given a 7-day leave. So I went back home and I reported back to Fort Benjamin Harrison on the 7th of January 1943. They sent me from there to Kernsfield, Utah to do my basic training, And in regards to when I finished that, they sent me to Camp Crowder, Missouri. And that was the beginning of learning how to set poles and the wire, communication wires and everything, up and down, up about 20, 25 feet up in the air. And you had to pull this cross arm up. It weighed about 25 pounds. In that respect, holding it too long.
Oh, you're doing a heck of a good job there, Mr. Stewart. Yes, you are. Yes, sir. So then what happened is that you got all your training to be a linesman, and you became what they call a Tech 5, which is the same as a corporal.
Corporal, yeah.
So you were a corporal. And then tell a little bit about, you went overseas, and how did you go overseas then when you were deployed to Europe?
When we left Camp Crowder, Missouri, they sent me to Langley Field, Virginia. And that's when I hooked up with this outfit, the 459th Construction Battalion. I was in Company B, and my Captain Hale was a company commander in that respect. So we had Thanksgiving dinner here, and we left Camp Langley Field, Virginia, and boarded the Queen Elizabeth to go across, and she was too fast for a convoy, so she zigzagged her way across the Atlantic Ocean.
Just so you know, zigzagging is a maneuver to avoid submarine detection. So that's what the Queen Elizabeth was doing while she was zigzagging, avoiding submarine detection from the U-boats.
So we ended up in Glasgow, Scotland. We had some 50,000 troops on the Queen Elizabeth. So we landed up in Glasgow, Scotland, and we were sent down from Glasgow, Scotland to right outside of London, a town called, we call it Reading, they call it Reading, the same as we got here in that respect. So we sat there until of course they always told us, had that saying, shh, don't talk too much. A slip of the lip might sink a ship. So this is what happened. Then at one of the officers' dance had a party, and this officer got too much alcohol in him. And
None of us have done that before.
he talked too much. And what happened was, whoever he was dancing with, this alcohol, it got back to General Eisenhower. So what Eisenhower did, he knocked him down a grade and sent him back to the States.
So now talk a little bit about you had to cross the English Channel. So let's move a little bit ahead, a few months in the history, to when you actually crossed the English Channel to go over for Normandy. And when did you actually
It wasn't until after this officer, that's when they were going, had originally scheduled for, they said in June the 6th.
Yep.
That was D-Day.
That was D-Day.
And when they left England and crossed the English Channel into France. Now, we came on around July. It's when we hit France.
But now you still landed on the beach, right? You still landed on Omaha Beach. So you guys went out in the Mike boat.
That was later.
Right.
That was later.
In July.
Yeah.
And
So we went. St. Lo, where we landed in France. St. Lo, and all we could see were dead German soldiers laying around on their back. I guess they left it there for our benefit. Well, I knew that we lost a whole lot of equipment and men at that particular, but we didn't see none of that in that respect. So what we were stringing communication lines in France from our headquarters to whoever on the field in that respect.
So we had all the destruction and stuff of what occurred in France from D-Day, and you guys were coming in afterwards and restoring communication lines.
Right.
So that they could start communicating again.
That's the thing in regards to that. Then they had these B-2 rockets. Germany had the B-2 rockets they would send over, and you could hear it, Lord, let it keep on going. But when it cut off, it done landed someplace and destroyed something. then I know one day we were in the field working in regards to, and the bomb, I don't know how close it was, but where we were, the earth shook as if an earthquake had hit it in that respect. I said, thank God, thank you, Lord. And with him, with the Lord, our Heavenly Father, taking care of me, period, in that respect.
So now after you initially arrived and you were restoring the areas around Normandy, you continued to stay in Europe and go to some of the other countries and help restore some of the communications, like in Germany and that area?
We did that. Then one day we were up I don't know where we were. Anyway.
Up in the air restoring communications, 25 feet up a pole.
In regards to, so what happened was we got pulled back. And that's just before the Battle of the Bulge broke out. And that's when defeated Hitler. And he himself did not want to be treated like he treated the people in the concentration camp. So that's when he committed suicide. So Colin Powell, General Powell, he was the one that had charge of the Battle of the Bulge, the men in the Battle of the Bulge, when they destroyed and defeated Hitler. So, and they went on up into Germany, concentration camp, and released everyone who was in there, in that respect.
So then you finished up your tour over in Europe. You came back to the United States, and then you were discharged on November 13th, 1945, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, around about the 12th of November in 45 is when. What we were scheduled to go to the Pacific at that time, because they were still fighting there. And what happened was Truman dropped an atomic bomb on it, and that's when they threw up their hand. Japan threw up their hand in there, and that stopped us from going to the Pacific.
So one of the things that when a couple people asked about it is that if you've ever been back to Normandy or not. So I don't know, Christy, can we put up the video there? So we got a video here that I want you to see, and this will answer the question whether he's ever been back to Normandy or not. So let's go ahead and take a couple-minute look at this.
From the Nazis, a veteran from right here in Cincinnati is now on his way back there nearly 8 decades later.
Yeah, he's not only the oldest, but one of the few African Americans making this trip. Local 12 news anchor Megan Mongello takes us to his send-off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
A send-off for a brave American soldier. World War II veteran Richard Stewart was stationed in Europe on D-Day. After the invasion, Stewart's unit was called in to string communication wires. At 102 years old, he remembers back to 1944 and arriving on the beach in Normandy.
They did not let us see anything, any equipment, anything had been destroyed. All we saw, they left for us to see was a dead German soldiers in their green uniform laying prostrate on the ground.
Stewart was a member of the U.S. Army Signal Corps. As a black soldier, he knew segregation.
You were one of only 2,000 African Americans. Your service on that day and during your tour of duty established a legacy that will last for generations.
The airport salute happened just before Stewart flew on a charter flight with other vets from across the country to France. They'll take part in the observances of the invasion's 79th anniversary.
If I can just get some video footage, some pictures, just to see the smiles on his face, and that'll be enough for me.
Stewart's son Samuel is going on the trip with him thanks to donations from family and friends. He knows it'll be special.
I'm so proud of my dad and everything that he's accomplished.
Stewart lives in Paddock Hills and is the only Cincinnatian returning to Normandy on this trip. He has a message of hope.
It doesn't matter who we are, where we live, and anything of that nature, but we still treat your fellow man right, period. Simple as that.
A simple life lesson from a man over a century old who's going back to remember a very fateful day. Megan Mongello, Local 12 News.
Richard Stewart is one of only 3 black soldiers in that time still living. The nonprofit Best Defense Foundation